Hey folks, Future Flow here at Scaling Up, the Bioeconomy Conference in Ottawa. We're just wrapping up. We only have one more interview to go with Jeff Passmore, the founder himself. But we just heard a really interesting sort of debrief or wrap-up of the conference by two external onlookers, to put it this way, who were here for the very first time, and so gave a very interesting perspective on the conference. Unfortunately, one of the two couldn't make it, but why don't you introduce yourself first?
I'm Maia. I'm a student at Carleton University studying law and political science. And my background, I worked on the Hill in the office of MP Dan Albas, who was the conservative environment critic at the time when I worked for him. And I spent a lot of time just, working on environmental issues while I was with him.
Okay, and interestingly, you said that even though you've worked on environmental issues, you had not really heard about the bioeconomy, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, no, I actually had zero background coming into the conference. I was asked to do this panel with Nicola and my colleague who's not here. And I was like, I don't really have any, background on this. I did a few readings, still not really fully grasping the whole concept. And coming here was really, completely eye-opening because I had absolutely zero background, which is unfortunate considering I did work in an environmental portfolio office for
right,
a
and
year.
You're based here in Ottawa. So,
exactly.
So you mentioned a lot of key takeaways, and the one I really want to focus on is communication. I'm a communication person myself, and I really believe that this industry does need to do more to, reach far beyond the confines of this room and of the participants who obviously are already convinced about the bioeconomy. Why don't you tell us what you shared with the audience?
Yeah, so as I said, I had no background on this, which I found really, quite concerning actually. And I think it's definitely a communication thing. I think most industries really work hard to really lobby, get their message out there, get their presence out there. And knowing nothing about this in the office of the opposition critic I think means that work's not being done, or it's not being done effectively. And I think that really is, needs to change. If we want the industry to grow, communication is a key part of that, through lobbying, through just social media, through getting the message out to the general public, in classes, all of that. That's so important that becomes a topic of people's, everyday people's conversation, not just, experts.
So obviously a conference like this is a way to communicate, of course, but it is somewhat limited to the folks who are in this room. And to be realistic, let's say, of course, all of them, especially those who paid for a ticket to come here, are pretty much already convinced. And you mentioned social media. The lobbying part is maybe a bit more obvious, but social media, and especially since you're relatively young, if I can put it this way, can you talk a little bit about the potential there?
Absolutely. I think that social media is a tool that a lot of maybe older generations don't really understand the importance of, and I think they see it as a chore to do, or just something they have to do. But I think when you really understand how many people you can reach with it, then your perspective changes, because it's not just young people on social media. These days everyone has some form of social media account, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Instagram. You can do so much on there, and you can reach so many people who you would never be able to reach in person or otherwise without it. So I think anyone who wants to get a message out there should be on social media.
And do you believe your peers, people your generation, students or recent graduates, would be receptive to that kind of content? And what kind of content, what would it look like, by the way?
That's a tough question, actually. I'm not sure that I know exactly what type of content, but a conference like this, I think this is an opportunity. I actually did look for an Instagram account earlier this morning. I was like, I wonder if there's any social media presence, and there wasn't. But
they're on Twitter.
On
and we're
Instagram,
supporting with Twitter.
I didn't look on Twitter,
okay, all right,
but
all right,
I should have, now that you've mentioned that, actually.
But that's an answer, that Instagram is maybe a platform where they should be. And there's also a visual element to the bioeconomy, right? So.
Absolutely, and I think that's, I absolutely would have posted something about it. That's why I went looking for it. So, people would be receptive to it, and I think there's a lot of young people who, they're not just gonna ignore something when they see it, right? A lot of young people interested in the environment, I think, would be really interested in this.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it's a fairly visual thing to communicate the environment. So, and so you have experience in politics as well. And is social media also a good way to reach politicians in your view?
Absolutely. I think Twitter is, I mean, you know, not often do you see a politician respond to people on Twitter, but I think they definitely look at it, or their staff does, and, you know, reports back. So Twitter is definitely a tool, and maybe not to directly converse with a politician, but definitely politicians look to Twitter, look to Instagram, look to Facebook, all the social media to get a pulse on what people are thinking, especially young people. So yeah, I think it's important.
And you have background with the Conservative Party. We've just had a leadership race recently, and the winner, Pierre Poilievre, is pretty much a master on social media. Lots and lots of almost daily content that he's been producing. So I imagine it's also a way to, in a way, compete. Like if you are not on social media and your opposition, whether it be political or whether it be industrial, let's say, is present, then maybe you're kind of missing an opportunity.
Absolutely, that's absolutely the case. I mean, Pierre is a master, as you said, at social media. No one really can do it.
I mean, like his politics or not, you can't really deny that he's done a great job on social media, right?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I don't even know how to run my I wouldn't know how to run a social media account like in the way that his staff does and he does. So, I mean, it's really commendable. But absolutely, you see how much impact you can make with social media if you use it effectively, and certainly if you are not on it, your competitor is, and that's going to be a problem. Any
final thoughts or any other takeaway, non-social media perhaps, but that, you know, do you feel inspired coming out of a conference like this?
Definitely. I think it was really insightful. I mean, I'm half, you know, still jarred that I didn't know anything coming into it. And then the other half, absolutely, I feel really enlightened about, you know, all the opportunities that I had no idea we you know, were in front of us. So I think it's fantastic, and I'm definitely going to do more research into, you know, all of the things that have been talked about at this conference and try and comprehend some of the high-level things that I didn't fully understand, you know, sitting here with no background. So for sure.
Sounds great. Pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much for your time.
Of course.